Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Locks and Long Shots, where we're giving you our top picks for the country's top college football matchups. The fourth week of the college football season is in the books, and boy, has it set up an exciting week 5 coming up this weekend. We got a lot in store for you today here on episode number 3, so buckle up and let's get ready to go. We got the crew back together today: Justin Chevalella, Dylan Price, and Josh Bartosik. And I'm pretty pumped. I know you guys are pumped for this next week of college football. But first, boys, how are we doing today?
You know, a lot better today than last night because my Giants got horribly destroyed again on Sunday night. Start Jackson Dart, get rid of Dable, whatever the case is. A lot better on this Monday because we get to talk about what is arguably at this point the best week of college football and what could be the best week of college football when the season is said and done. So a great night to have a great night.
Awful week for those who are going to have to go to any semblance of a wedding, family function. Any family significance this weekend you can't get out of, because not just college football. I mean, you got the Ryder Cup this weekend, a great NFL slate. It is quite literally a nightmare for sports fans that have family obligations this weekend, but a great time for those that don't, and those that might be potentially at one of the biggest games of the week, Justin and I, but also a great week to talk about it. And I think this is one of those weeks where, you know, some people might have had a bad week last week in picks, and some people might have had to watch DJ Lagway football 2 weeks ago. So it could be a great bounce back week for some people, and some people might be me. So that's how I'm doing.
I'm not people this week.
Hey, Justin, Boomer.
Sooner. They won.
Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Dylan, we both had a terrible week in picks last week. It was brutal. It was
Shout
brutal.
out to the low of not knowing what the locks and long shots are, but somehow figuring out how to pick the right ones.
Hey. Shout out the Delaware Blue Hens for being my last minute long shot and winning, because that kind of saved me from getting last place. But I'm doing great. I like wearing my my banana colored polo today. And Thomas, since no one's going to ask, how are you doing today?
Oh,
I'm
steal
doing
my
fantastic.
thunder. Why don't you?
I mean, yeah, come on. I'd like Justin to ask me instead.
Thomas,
okay,
nobody's going to ask, and clearly no one has already asked, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm fantastic. It's good to be back with the boys. Like you said, Chevy, it's going to be a great week of college football. We had a somewhat uneventful week this past week, but it's setting up for a really, really good week, a week 5.
Uneventful? Okay.
I thought it was kind of uneventful. I'm not going to lie.
Did you miss college football?
Maybe
I must have slept all day Saturday, yeah.
But we'll recap it for you since Justin thinks it's eventful. Grant Sheets was the only one to pick Arizona State over Baylor in a thrilling matchup. We all picked wrong with Arkansas and Memphis. USC at like 1 a.m. got a win over Michigan State. Miami, they look like they could be the top team in the country at this point with a win over Florida. I was waiting for it too. It was a little late on the trigger there, but there it is.
You're gonna keep it?
Why isn't that guy talking in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, come on. We
Guys,
should put AI.
Guys,
South Carolina did not get a win for Justin over Mizzou. Mizzou is continuing to roll. All of us were wrong, however, with Nebraska, besides
all of us?
Mr. Justin Chevalella, who got that one right with the Wolverines.
Dylan clock twice a day, blah, blah, blah.
Dylan's Tulane pick did not come to fruition. All of us got it right with Ole Miss.
Trinidad.
One that went a little bit both ways, Texas Tech and Utah. Texas Tech looked good once again. Justin and I got that one correct.
All the backup quarterback, too.
Yeah, with a backup quarterback. All of us picked correctly and picked Boomer.
Good thing we didn't take
Sooner. There we go. I knew that was coming. And then another matchup where all Kurt Signetti does is win. I mean, Justin, Josh, you guys look like clowns after that.
Wait. I actually have this teed up and ready to go. This is what I said on last week's show. It's great.
Again.
Fernando Mendoza hasn't been great this season. He struggled in their one test against Old Dominion. Kobe Martin, their running back, I'll give it to him. He's looked pretty good in all 3 games. I don't really care. Look, Kirk Signetti, you could say Google me. All I do is win. I am going to Google him on Saturday night, and there will be an L next to his name. Give me Luke Altmaier. People say that Illinois is a top 5 team next week. Yeah, that was aged horribly.
And he was people in that sense. He was people, and people is now looking at a 3-1 Illinois team after Kirk Signetti.
Shockingly.
So Dylan has had a really, really bad clip of him talking about DJ Lagway, and now Justin's had one.
So I had that, but I also
Signetti.
last week famously rounded it out because I wanted to go scorched earth on my enemy. Kurt has no idea I exist, but I have been his biggest hater for a long time now. And all of a sudden, last week, I changed my mind. I went the other way on him, and apparently it happened at the best time. So,
well, I just meant this week either me or Thomas has to make some
for a little bit.
Yeah, we got to make a bold pick.
Yeah, we have to make an outlandish take, and I looked at the sheet, so we'll see.
On the bright side, all of us got our locks correct. We all were able to get wins there. And then 3 of the 5 of us, including Grant, got their long shots. Shout out to Dylan, Justin, and Josh. You guys were able to nail that. Chapel Bill, I'm never picking him again. That was a terrible pick. I mean, what they score, I think 6 points in the game. Absolutely brutal. So your final scores for this week, Dylan and Josh go 5 for 10 with their picks, but they both save it with the long shots to get 6 points. Justin is 6 for 10, but saves it with his long shot, gets a 7th point. And then Grant and I both went 7 for 10, but both got our long shots wrong, so we're at 7 points as well. So overall, point-wise, a pretty good week for the crew, especially getting our long shots right. The overall records, Dylan now 10-10. I am 13-7 leading the way. Justin is 11-9, and Josh and Grant tied at 12-8. And then points-wise, Josh still hanging on, 13 points. The 3 of us are with 12 points, and Grant trailing with 11. So that is your weekly recap, boys. We'll go around the horn really quickly here and give us your top headline of the week. Chevy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, last week I went 2 headlines that both really weren't headlines either, so I made it more concise this week. Culture matters in college football, and that's what we learned this week. Syracuse going into a tough environment at Clemson, albeit whatever Clemson that team is, they're a shell of themselves, but Syracuse and Fran Brown have built a program on the culture led by Fran Brown and making it so that wasn't – I mean, Syracuse is not as talented of a team as Clemson, right? I mean, there's supposedly 3 first-round picks on that Clemson defense or on that Clemson team in general. They didn't come to play. Syracuse, they came to play. Memphis, another team that's built a strong culture, a good foundation built on, that program and the things that used to matter in college football and not necessarily the NIL and the transfer portal and all that, bull crap that goes along with college football nowadays. Memphis goes and beats an SEC team in Arkansas, a team from the American, beating an SEC team. Indiana and Kirk Signetti, yep. I mean, that's a dominant win over Illinois. As much as I hate it, he has done exactly what he preached in his opening press conference and everywhere since then. All he does is win. And I hate to admit it because I really don't like the guy and the way he comes off in the media. And I've made that clear. But that's another team built on culture. And TCU getting ranked this week. Sonny Dykes, another team that has built up an actual program. This is an era of college football where programs don't really matter anymore. The institution that you attend doesn't matter. The colors you wear don't matter. The name across your chest doesn't matter as much as the name on your back, and that really sucks about college football nowadays. But there are certain teams that are doing it right, and that came to play this week. Syracuse, Memphis, Indiana, TCU. I'm probably forgetting a few in there, but those are the ones I have right now. Culture matters, and a team with a good, strong culture, a good foundation, and one that, cares about what's on the chest instead of what's on the back, and cares about, tuition and everything, the academic side of things, and not just the football field and all that stuff, and not just the check, the NIL check. They care about the tuition check too. That's what I was looking for before. That's the teams. That's the programs. That's what you like to see. That's what I love to see. There's still some teams that do it right. Those were the 4 that I saw this week, and it proves that, a team with a good, strong culture can beat a more talented team any day of the week.
I like Justin's point there a lot, especially when you talk about Syracuse and Fran Brown. I mean, that guy has built this thing the right way, and they might not make a lot of noise in the national conversation this year, but when you continue to look into what they're going to be in years to come, they're a team that could really rock the boat and kind of shake up the picture. And just to, a couple Penn Staters here on this, home and home looming at the Carrier Dome or JMA Wireless Dome, whatever they're calling it these days, at some point soon, and Syracuse will come to Beaver. But for me, week 4 kind of feels like that week that in, year out, kind of starts to shake out who's the pretenders and who could really be the contenders. I wanted to go straight up a Clemson storyline here, especially after last week, but I think the real headline for me, other than shaking out the pretenders and the contenders, is that what you thought you don't really know after week 4. And that sets up a perfect week 5 because there's so many great games on the docket this week where teams are truly going to be tested. I thought Utah, a wagon, Kyle Whittingham, there's no way they get caught off guard. They lose by 24 points to a team that's entirely built from the portal. Georgia Tech, they did win the football game, but Temple didn't exactly go to sleep easy into the night. So that was something. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola played about as good of a game as you could play against that Michigan team with a coach who, is not their actual head coach. And still, they were able to, Michigan, survive that one and win. A game that obviously you have to talk about. You have to talk about Clemson being upset by Syracuse. And that's something that, you thought, especially I thought, that Clemson would make their comeback. Clemson would be back. And this would be the start of the, September woes ending and the October wins kind of starting to stack. No, this is a Clemson team that is pretty much effectively out of the college football playoff on September 22nd when we record. It would take magic happening from Cade Klubnik and company to make it kind of happen from here. So what you thought you didn't know, but then at the same time, the contenders are getting sorted out into the pretenders, and how we kind of go from that we'll really see develop over the course of this next week in the big games ahead. But, a team like Miami, I know Florida is, I think, a better team than advertised, despite all my DJ Lagway hate. I think if they had a quarterback who knew how to throw the football to the right team, they'd really be a great team. But when you talk about this team, it's still a tall task for Miami with all the eyes on them, all the expectations. I didn't give that win the same level of credit as some of you guys did with our poll, but still, it proves that Miami is legit because those are games Mario Cristobal would not have won in years past. Oregon continues to make business, it just take care of business in what's in front of them. Same with Florida State, same with Texas, same with Oklahoma running through Auburn and that being a big time win. Tennessee takes care of business. So you're finding out the teams that are going to just figure it out, and you're finding out the teams that are going to get caught off guard like Clemson, and in this case like Utah, even though Texas Tech is a good team. And another team that I'll kind of shout out here because we all know that he is tearing it up right now, but to me, a contender got sorted out this weekend, and that was the Missouri Tigers and Bo Prabula and Ahmad Hardy and Roberts. That team is just dynamic in a lot of facets of their game. So we're finding out who are contenders and pretenders. The cakewalk schedules are almost over, pretty much all but over as we head into this weekend. And so what you thought you didn't know in terms of teams like Clemson, but you're starting to find out who actually is legit and who might be more of, shit.
Josh?
Yeah, I think kind of what you both were a little bit talking about, just kind of building off of that just slightly, is that, this is kind of the new era of college football. I think, even though Dabo Swinney and Clemson went out and finally started spending money in the portal, it doesn't always work out that way. But Clemson's not the team they used to be. Alabama still, I don't think, is the team they used to be. You look at teams like Georgia Tech. Vanderbilt looks incredibly good right now. Vanderbilt, Bama in a few weeks is probably going to be a top 15 matchup that I don't think anybody you'd think 3 years ago would have thought that was going to happen. And I currently, with the way that Vanderbilt's been playing, would pick Vanderbilt in that game. But moving past that, I think something that we're kind of forgetting about, we're always talking about, these title contenders, these playoff contenders. This group of 5 contender race this season is going to be very, very fun. UNLV, a fantastic team to watch right now. They look fantastic. Dylan, I know you're high on them. North Texas, a team that looks really good, tons of offense. And another team as well. USF is still getting slept on. Me personally, I know I ranked them 24th in my poll. I was probably the only one I think that did it. But I don't think losing to some of us, arguably the best team in the country, the way they did after beating the other teams they did, necessarily means that they should be not ranked. I think they have been probably one of the better group of 5 teams. They looked really, really good. They steamrolled this past week. They've been beating the competition that they are supposed to, / beating teams that they weren't supposed to. I think they were currently a really good group of 5 team. But you have North Texas, you have South Florida and UNLV and other teams as well that could get into that mix later on in the season. Tulane, obviously a team that could still potentially find their way in. They did beat Duke, who is probably going to end up being in that conversation for the ACC championship with how wild the ACC looks right now. But I think the group of 5 race last year was pretty obvious. It was going to be Boise State. This year, it could be a handful of teams. I think any one of them are going to be really, really exciting to see in this year's college football playoff.
I think all great points. I think for me, the thing that stands out is how important hitting on your transfer quarterback is. I mean, we have seen it with Carson Beck. We have seen it with John Mateer. Now, we've even seen it, like you said, Dylan, with Bo Prabula. It is vital to your team that you hit on your transfer quarterback or you really develop a guy. I mean, we've seen Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier haven't really been as advertised. I feel like that's fair to say up until this point, obviously early in the season and some big ranked matchups coming up for those two guys. But I think you look at it and it's make or break. If you don't get a stud quarterback, it seems like you are not going to be able to compete against some of the top defenses in this college football world. And I think that you see teams, like I mentioned, Miami's, the Oklahomas, even Indiana, Missouri, Tennessee, even with Joey Aguilar, they have been really good. So I think overall, the biggest thing that I've seen from this past week is if you don't hit, you're not going to win many games. I mean, you saw it with Jackson Arnold and Auburn against Oklahoma. It was a tough matchup for him. I mean, he did not play well and was telling Oklahoma fans that he wishes that they wish they were him. And at this point, I don't know. I mean, you might not want to be sacked 7 times or whatever he was sacked in that game. Yeah, 9 times. I mean, it's a brutal outing for sure. Was it 10? 10
ESPN,
times?
Okay,
I
had to look this up today because there was a discrepancy. I had heard 10. When I looked it up, it was 9. I guess they went back and changed one. So everyone on the game was saying it was 10, but box score shows only 9 right now.
Either way,
I would give them 10 because they just absolutely crushed Jackson Arnold all day.
Yeah. I mean,
Auburn didn't stand a chance, baby.
No, not at all.
Wait, I just want to quickly get in here and say, and it doesn't have to be a D1 to a D1. No. How about Trinidad Chambliss coming out of nowhere with Lane Kiffin? And I don't know if you guys saw, but Ferris State's coach went out on Twitter yesterday, and they're like, everyone's questioning where this guy came from. And he's like, our school can still develop. We got great coaches, and we're just setting these guys up for a better future. As long as you hit, it doesn't matter where they come from. It matters, if they're, got that talent within them, if they've got that potential, and if they go to the right fit, because you can get quarterbacks that are good, but then they, fall down because they go to a place not fit for them. It seems like the teams you've named, everyone's been a hit.
You see that in every level. I mean, professional, college, every sport.
Daniel Jones.
A change of scenery can mean everything. A change of scenery can mean everything, and especially in the world of college football where now you're getting into the money side. You look at teams that have had our first quarterback trade, and look who has won that so far. I mean, Tennessee has clearly won that trade with UCLA being terrible. But I think that's what's so important after this week is the quarterbacks, especially the transfers, have really shown out, and some really haven't so far this season. Justin, you had a point.
Yeah, I wanted to get your guys' take real quick. I know we're trying to make it a little quicker today. Transfer portal down to just one window. I think it's a great thing for college.
I like it.
I agree.
That was easy.
Get what transfers you can. If you miss out, you miss out. I don't like this whole, we're going to try to recruit them early.
Yep.
And then if we miss out, we'll try to recruit them again. I don't like that. I think it's, if you can get them, because it makes it so much more important, like I'm saying, to hit on those positions of need, especially quarterback. You look at your defense especially as well. I mean, if you don't have some really good corners, you're going to get torched because college football is about scoring points. So I think it's a good thing to have a single window for sure. And that, go ahead, Dylan.
My take on it has always been this, and it's something that I think I said at some point in our show last year, or just some point in general with all of us. But, in NFL, you have free agency, then you have, the rest of the offseason, then you have mini camp. After minicamp or whatever, you don't have, or voluntary OTAs, you don't have a window to kind of go, oh, I didn't really like how our receivers perform. Let's go out and pluck another one from the portal if we have a lot of money to spend or whatever it may be. When you don't have guidelines in terms of the amounts that teams can spend for players, and you can kind of watch what you have and get that kind of sample size in camp, well, all of a sudden you can kind of pick and choose where your holes are. And a lot of the teams that we like, a lot of the teams that we have been talking about all season long, did exactly that in the spring portal. So I think there's definitely it'll level the playing field. It won't ever fully be leveled, but it'll definitely make things a little bit better. And I think it'll force guys to have a little bit more loyalty to the colleges in which they choose. And then it'll also kind of force teams to be a little bit more creative with the hands that you have dealt. And I think it'll help some of those players that find themselves lost in the shuffle a little bit more too.
I think your point on loyalty can be expanded. It mitigates the risk of another Nico situation where at the end of the spring, he's like, well, I'm not making enough money to be here at Tennessee and enter the portal. You can't do that. You're with your team after that portal window, and you can't leave till the next one. If you want to sit out or whatever, you can do that, but you're not going to get paid your NIL bonuses or anything like that. And I think it's never going to make college football what it was, but it definitely makes it a little bit closer to that where, you used to have only a certain bit to transfer and certain reasons to transfer, and now you can only do it once. That'll help so we don't see, the quarterback trade between UCLA and Tennessee and anything like that. And I think that's a good thing for college football, so we don't have to hear about Nico wanting, $4.1 million after spring ball. It's like you could have gotten to the portal and gotten that, the first time around.
I think one last point I want to make is it makes the red shirt that much more valuable, because I think if you're a freshman and you're committing to a college and maybe it's not working out for you, maybe you don't see yourself getting as much NIL, go ahead and ask for that red shirt, see if your coaches will allow it, let the program kind of handle that, and hopefully you can keep your eligibility without, transferring too many times and trying to burn that red shirt. So that's the last point I want to make. And that kind of leads us into our top 25 poll this week. A couple of movements in the top 10 and then some movements down low as well. You see TCU is in for us. I believe Auburn is in after not being in last week as well. And then some shuffling up top. Penn State drops a little bit. Oregon moves up. Oklahoma moves up. Indiana up. Illinois drops. A lot of movement, but Dylan, we'll start with you this time. What stands out to you?
Yeah, I'm shaking my head. I think we're punishing teams a little bit too harshly for either not playing or whatever it may be. I don't really understand why one person in this poll had Penn State at number 7. I understand that they had a cakewalk competition through the first 3 weeks of the season and then a bye, but I don't understand what we've seen from a team like LSU from this same person to put them in that same conversation as them. I don't think LSU has proven anything offensively. You'll hear me say that a little bit when we get to picks. I think that the fact that when this is all shaked out, that Oregon and Penn State are both in the top 5, I like, because that obviously is not how it is on the national poll, and that would be a top 5 game from a locks and long shot standpoint. So we're going to bill it as such when we talk about College Game Day and the big game this weekend. But I don't think there's anything that we have seen from a Miami team that is overly outstanding other than them finding a way to actually take care of business this season. I actually do think 4 ends up being the proper ranking. I just think there's one person in this group that has been ranking one school. Honestly, ranking.
Yeah, I wonder who that could be.
Ranking a few schools a little bit too low for some reason. I do agree with the way this ranking as a whole shook out. I think Memphis deserves some love. I hope they start to get it. And I think they can get that opportunity after this week. I still think we're kind of grossly underrating a few teams, and I think we're very, very much overrating a few. I don't know how a week ago we could say that Justin and I were crazy to have Notre Dame in the top 25, but then look at them steamrolling Purdue and go, oh, they should just stay where they're at. But, A&M should move up. Like, that makes sense, whatever it may be. I just don't really fully. I think this week is going to be that's why I, as much as I'm frustrated with one person in this group for his rankings, I also at the same time know that I think next week's rankings are going to be the most conclusive for us, for the AP poll, except for the people who don't watch games, the reporter from USC. But I think next week will really be conclusive for the AP. Next week will really be conclusive for us, because we're finally going to see the teams that haven't been tested yet, like our alma mater, finally actually be tested. So I think we're really going to have more to go off of next week. But there's one person in this group who I still think just rolls the dice and tries to piss people off with this poll. Justin, how are you, buddy?
Well, yeah, would said person like to go next?
Yeah, I'd love to go next, and I'll give you my reasons. I texted in the group chat. No one wanted to respond to me, so you know what?
I was on a plane that was famously stuck on the freaking runway for 4 hours, so I didn't exactly have a chance.
All right, well, you could have when you got home. Let's be real here, though.
At 3 in the morning?
Yes, I wasn't up last night, but whatever. Here's my reasoning. I'll start with Penn State because it seems the most confusing to all of you. We all have seen how Penn State has played this season. It has been nothing great against these cakewalks. And I understand you can only play who's on your schedule. I completely understand that side of it. But they have not, to me, proved to be a team that is deserving of a top 5 spot in the country. First of all, I'd also like to say my rating of 7 for them was not outrageous. The AP, there was 2 voters that had them down at 12 this week. They were scattered all over 1 through 12. This is not just me hating on Penn State for the fun of hating on them. This is me hating their resume because they don't have one at this point. You can go look. Here's the 6 teams I have in front of them. Ohio State beat Texas early in the season in that first week. Texas is number 10 in our poll here this week. Then Miami. Miami has big wins this season. Notre Dame, that Florida win. Dylan, you just said Florida was a better team than I think we're making them out to be if they just had a quarterback. But Miami has beaten Florida. They've beaten USF, who was in our rankings a couple of weeks ago. They have a resume. Oregon was my number 3 team in the country. They have gone and they have dominated every single team on their schedule. And that is the difference between them and Penn State. Oregon has gone out there each week and taken their boot to the ass of the other team consistently. Big win after big win for Dan Lanning and his squad. And the other thing is, I think we started Oregon a little bit too low. I think the country as a whole, the AP poll, every poll that comes out, I think they all started them low because they saw Oregon get steamrolled by Ohio State in the playoffs last year. I think that was unfair to think of Oregon that way. This has been a talented team. I think they're the most talented roster-wise. It's a matter of putting all the pieces together because they might actually have too much talent. But they have steamrolled everyone on their schedule. Georgia's got the win over Tennessee. I don't have to go on there. LSU is probably the most confusing to all of you. They had the win over Florida. They had the win over Florida and Clemson. And I know both those teams are now not looking great, but you also have to remember it's the standard of play that leading into the game, we still thought Florida was relevant. We thought Clemson was a great team week 1 going into the year. And it's not Clemson's a 1-3 program now. If LSU's not on their schedule, they're obviously 2-2. You can look at it that way. Clemson is not a 1-3 program. They have so many first-round picks on their team. They've got a ton of talent. I think LSU deserves credit for the wins they have on their resume against Florida, against Clemson, 2 very talented teams. Oklahoma, I don't really have to talk about. They just beat a ranked opponent. They already beat Michigan this year. Again, strength of schedule, the resume they've already put out there. Those 6 have better resumes than FIU, than Nevada, than Villanova. And that's my reasoning. And if you want to call me out, call me out. But I've got every reasoning right there. And those are 6 teams with better resumes. And there's probably more. But, Penn State still keeps a little bit because they do have talent.
Justin, I can't sit here and have you say that LSU is a better resume than Penn State.
They do.
Clemson and Florida are
an SEC school, an ACC school against FIU, Nevada, and Villanova, and FCS program.
Yes,
they have better wins than Penn State. They do. It's facts. There's no debating.
I don't like his take, but I agree with his take there. My whole thing with you is that, and I get it, we get to make our rules willy-nilly. It's our show. We make our own guidelines. But you're talking about a team that was placed number 2 to start the season, and we're penalizing them to number 7 in your standpoint just because of their scheduling and from allowing 5 points per game.
They haven't looked good.
You're also doing the same shit to Texas. You're the reason Texas is tanking. Yes, they lost to Ohio State. The team we have is the number 1 team in the country. And
they also look like crap at the most important.
So does LSU.
I mean,
but LSU has wins.
I got LSU and Texas.
You have Notre Dame ahead of USC. They beat Purdue. I don't understand.
Yeah, actually, wait. So I want to point out that I just want to say that I still don't think Notre Dame should be ranked. There should, in no case, in a week.
Clearly, enough people did. They're 22nd.
In week 4 of now going into week 5, there should not be a team with a losing record in our top 25. That is absurd and that is dumb. My thing is that if you actually watch Dylan, I hate to bring up the point about Texas Tech, Utah, but really that game was a little bit closer than that final score kind of indicated. Yeah, I think Utah just ran out of gas and they gave up 3 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes of the game. It happened. But for them to be in, I think, what were they last week? 16 for us, for them to go unranked because they lost to a team like Texas Tech that jumped up a lot. And for my ranking especially, I had them I think right outside of the top 10 or in the top 10 because I had them at number 10 because they looked really good as well on the road against a very good Utah team. Why are we punishing Utah so much for beating a ranked team where Notre Dame has done nothing? They lost games. That game against Purdue was close for a little bit too. I mean, yeah, sure, the final score, whatever. But I think that Notre Dame should not be in this top 25 until they prove something. Beating Purdue is not proving anything. They won 2 games last year, and you beat them at home. They should not be in this top 25.
They have 4 combined points separates them from a 3-0 record.
So I want to say
we don't need to have this conversation again.
And almost only counts in what? Horseshoes and hand grenades. Watson's favorite saying. And we're going to bring that back.
You also just give a 1-3 Clemson credit by saying they have NFL talent. Who gives a shit? If they have NFL talent, they're 1-3.
Same thing with Notre Dame. That's my whole point.
Yes,
I don't want to give them credit. I'm not giving Notre Dame credit. And that is also part of the reason that I don't think LSU is as good as people think they are. Yes, there was the preseason bias about Clemson and about Florida, but Clemson has clearly proven that they are not a good football team. I don't care how much talent you have on that team. They are 1-3 for the first time in 20 years.
If I gave you a blind if I gave you 2, teams, neither of which which team it is, right? This is a blind ranking, and you see wins against the 3 teams Penn State has, or the wins against the teams LSU has.
Put their combined records together. They're virtually the same.
No, they're not. They are nowhere near equal.
You put the combined win-loss records of the teams that they have both played. They're virtually the same at this rate. Clemson is 1-3. Florida is also 1-3. Like it's like you're telling the same amount of wins and losses.
You're telling me a 1-3 Virginia Tech team is the same as a 1-2 Notre Dame team? Absolutely not. You go on a neutral field, Notre Dame wins by 48
Why are we playing the theoretical problem?
You just played it by saying yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I literally am putting up the stats of combined records between the teams that Penn State and LSU
combined records. You know how dumb you sound for pulling out combined records?
You know how dumb you sound by talking about theoretical? They're not playing the theoretical game until Notre Dame proves themselves. Until Notre Dame proves themselves by beating a meaningful opponent, they should not be ranked. You are 1-2. You have a losing record. Get out of our top 25. It is week 5 coming up. What are we doing?
Listen, I think one point that I agree with Dylan is the bye week, I think, is the hardest thing to judge when it comes to making these polls. Because how do you rank a team that has gotten a win, regardless of opponent, versus a team that didn't play? I think that's my toughest part of this. I mean, especially when I was ranking a team like Alabama, I wasn't sure how to rank them because they didn't play. I couldn't see a little bit more. You don't find out more information. So I think Dylan and Josh are correct on you need to find out and see based on what you see where teams go. I do agree with Justin, however, that there are certain situations where you can rank them a little bit differently because you look at a Clemson game after week 1, we'd be saying, oh, LSU, that's a good win. Maybe we bump them up pretty high because that's a ranked Clemson team. But you look at that win now, like Justin's saying, and it's like, it doesn't look as good of a win anymore. I don't think they should be as high, but it's still a win over a good team at the time. So let's put them against Penn State. So I think there's points on both sides, and I think that's why making these polls is so much fun because you see how different people's opinions are and how different people rank. I mean, you see it right here. Like for me, I'm ranking purely based on the results of this past week and some of the big wins. I'm not looking at the wins over teams that you should beat. I'm not really looking at those scores because that's early in the season. Those are games that are essentially warm-ups, in my opinion. There's some people that rank purely on how is the win at the time of the win. So if we're playing a ranked team that's number 10, but now they're unranked, how does that different? There's people that rank it based on what's the win look like now? And I think that's what makes this so much fun. And I think that's why this poll gets so interesting and gets us all fired up like we were right there. So I think that's a good way to go off it. Unless Josh has got one more point.
One final thing, though.
We got to get to these picks.
If you can talk about, the win looked good at the time and maybe it doesn't look now, but you can say that about like week 3 or week 4 for a team. Clemson was the preseason number 4. They have proven nothing since then. I think the problem that we're having, that some people in this group have, but they have it in both ways, is that there's too much preseason bias for some of these teams, and then also there's not. But I think for a team like when you're talking about an LSU, I think there's too much preseason bias based on the teams that they have played. Like if Clemson was number 4 and they played like week 3 or 4, that's a great win. But Clemson being ranked number 4 in the preseason, they've proven nothing. And that kind of goes back, that helps Justin's point in the same time, talking about Penn State being preseason number 2. They've done nothing, but they're not 1-3.
The other argument would be, real quick, LSU beats Clemson week 1. I had LSU at 3 in my poll after week 1 because LSU looked like, the number 3 team in the country beating Clemson in that game. How after that am I going to possibly – I dropped LSU, by the way, in my rankings since then. What were they this week for me? 5? I've dropped them 2, but did they really deserve to drop 2 points or 2 spots in that based off what they did over that stretch? So part of it is maybe right out of the bat, I ranked them too high and I tried to course correct. But at the end of the day, I fully believe LSU's got a better resume and thus better ranking than Penn State. But I can't go back now and damage them too much for that win in Clemson against Clemson.
You can.
I think.
You can. I think my thing is that the teams that I put ahead of LSU, besides
I'm rewarding teams. I wasn't punishing LSU for anything this week. I was rewarding teams that I thought had better weeks. That's how I do it.
That's my thing.
Not
not
better weeks, but teams get rewarded for, their wins and all that stuff. And that's why teams jump Penn State for me this week.
If we're rewarding teams truly just based on wins, I think
not just wins, it's how they came about those wins.
But then I think at a certain point, we're going to have to come to a point where somebody has the balls to rank Oklahoma in the top 5. And I don't know, I am not looking at our polls right now, but it's going to happen at some point. And
I have them at 6 right now.
I mean,
I also have them at 6.
Because if we're going to talk about proof being in the pudding, they have the most impressive resume right now of any team in the top 8. So I'm pretty much, I think we just have a flawed system. I don't think nearly as flawed as the AP, but I think we're also going to find out, like I said this at the top to start my very hot takes here, because I don't agree with Justin. I think we're going to find out more this week. And I think next week's going to be a little bit more civil, because as the season goes on, that's the fun part about us doing this poll. We actually find out what these teams are. Right now, I think to some extent for all 25 of these teams, we're still making hypotheses. I don't know. We're not
hypotheses.
Shut up, Josh.
I'm helping you out.
We're making those when we don't actually know a lot of what these teams truly are. And I think we'll find out more of that this week.
I think that is a perfect point, and that was what I was going to say, is it goes back to Dylan's point of first half of the season, you probably won't know jack squat about a lot of teams and where they should be ranked. I think these next couple weeks will really figure some things out, and the rankings will start to get a little bit less of where you see a lot of movement and a little bit more of where you see teams go up maybe 2 or 3 spots depending on the week. So I think that's a good way to conclude the top 25, and hopefully we can rifle through the first half or so of these picks, because we got some good games later on. 4 top 25 ranked matchups this week. But in my opinion, every single game that we will talk about is going to be a game to watch. I mean, there are some really good matchups, and you see it on your screen right now. We'll start with Arizona, who is 3-0, at number 14 ranked Iowa State, who is 4-0. This is the first meeting since 1968. Arizona does lead the all-time series 4-1 with 1 tie as well. The Wildcats are sitting at 3-0 for the first time in a decade. They do have all three new coordinators, however. So I'll lay all the stats out this time. I promise I'm not hiding anything. Unless you want this one, Iowa State has only trailed for 28 seconds so far this season. So, Justin, we will start with you. Who is your pick?
I'm almost too scared to make picks. You guys will probably start, coming at me again.
Yes, that's the whole point.
We got to fly through these. No arguing.
Arizona's off to its best start in 10 years. It's going to be a close game. That's how these games always play in the Big 12. But Rocco Becht, 8-1 in one-score games since 2024. Give me Iowa State.
I like Arizona. I mean, I think this is a team that can ground and pound it. I think they're having, like you said, one of the best starts. Really in the last tenure for this team. I know we're saying 10 years, but really you look at the last 20, 30 years for this team. This is an Arizona team that looks like they're ready to play this year. And maybe that results in them just making a bowl game. It's hard because Iowa State and Matt Campbell's squad, led by a veteran in Rocco Becht, they've been Mr. Consistent, but every team in this Big 12 at some point is going to fall. And I think this just comes on an off week for Iowa State. They put up impressive wins. They showed their flaws against Arkansas State. And I think Arizona finds a way to exploit them in this one. So although I shouldn't take too many chances, given my record last last week on taking chances, this might be the one chance I'm really willing to take. They have a good quarterback, a guy that we talked about very highly for a couple years there, and they have a hell of a ground game that I think is going to punch Iowa State in the mouth. Give me Arizona to pull off the upset in Iowa State, in Ames.
I'm also going to go with Arizona. I think kind of building off of just the way that I've built my – shut up, Dylan. The way that I've built my AP poll is that I think you look at a team like Iowa State, their best win really right now is against a bad Kansas State team on foreign soil, and they beat Iowa as well. But I don't really think Iowa's that good. I don't think Iowa State's looked great. Yeah, they're a good defensive team, but I think Arizona looks too good right now, so I'm also going to take Arizona.
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to ride with Justin here. I like Iowa State at home. Arizona's defense has looked really good. I think they're pretty underrated, top 20 in a lot of different categories defensively in the country. But I like Rocco Becht. I'm a guy who likes experienced quarterbacks. I picked Iowa State to make the Big 12 championship game. So I'm going to ride with Rocco Becht and Iowa State, and we will move on. Number 15, Tennessee, who is 3-1 against Mississippi State, who is 4-0. They have doubled their win total from last year already this season. Mississippi State unofficially at 27th in the AP poll after they received a bunch of votes. They did not win a conference game last year in Jeff Levy's first year at the helm, but they are looking to get one here, and it's going to be a good matchup. I like this one for sure. Justin, who do you like?
Josh, thanks for ranking Mississippi State with me this week. I do appreciate that on your end. Mississippi State has the 16th best scoring defense in the country with 11.75 points per game, albeit against pretty bad opponents outside of maybe Arizona State, which I think, is part of their strong resume to this point. But I've got one name, Joey Aguilar. I think that's all that really matters in this game. 7th in the country in yards per game is this Tennessee offense led by Aguilar. He's got the running if he needs it. He's got the passing. 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against Georgia. I think that's a pretty strong game. Obviously, they played UAB this week, but a strong game to carry on the rest of the season and to kind of gauge how Aguilar is. I think he is probably top 5 in my Heisman vote if I had a Heisman vote at this moment. So give me Tennessee.
I like Levy starting to get into a rhythm. I like this Mississippi State program starting to get into a rhythm. I think they're one of those programs that they make college football better when they are better. Their defense is legit. I think we're starting to find that out. I think they've got the pieces in Blake Shapen, and this program is on the come up, but sometimes you got to get punched in the mouth to really start to find out your true identity as a program. And I think Tennessee's a deeper team, a stronger team, and I agree with you, Justin. I think they're led by one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college football right now. Aguilar's an absolute gamer. He's got a hell of a story. I thought they should have won that game against Georgia, but again, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and their kicker looked like little Sasquatch from Barstool, and he looked scared shitless. So unfortunately, they lost the game. I was very disappointed. Still will hold it against them. Knoxville just can't be a place where you see Georgia end up not coming out the victor, but they do come out the victor this week. The Vols win, and I think this is a Tennessee team that is going to find themselves in the top 10 sooner rather than later. They've got the talent to do so, and I think they take care of business on the road.
I think maybe you just don't take a false start right before your kicker is supposed to kick.
That usually helps too, but
that would help too.
I think they're cursed. I think that's really what it is.
I think they are cursed, but but that's a really good point. I mean, look, I was the one person that picked Georgia, but it wasn't by any fault of Tennessee. They're a great team. Joey Aguilar has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I think top 3 currently. I think John Mateer, obviously, I think for a lot of people, at least in my mind, has looked like the best quarterback in college football, with playing some of the best competition along, and Carson Beck too. But again, yeah, I like this Mississippi State team. I think they should be ranked. They were ranked in the AP a few weeks ago. They haven't lost since then, and somehow are being punished for that, which we can't go more into that. But I do think this is going to be the first loss of the season for Mississippi State. There's too much talent on this Tennessee team. I think that they will get a lot more respect in both our poll and I think the AP poll after they come away with a win in this one. I think this is a tough environment. Arizona State learned that firsthand. But I think Tennessee is a really, really good team and a good, strong contender for the SEC title. I think just because they have that loss to Georgia does not count them out. This is a team that is ready to go.
I'm going to ride with the Vols as well. I mean, Tennessee's offense has been so explosive, 53.5 points per game. Joey Aguilar, you mentioned the stats, 1,124 yards, but more importantly, he's only been sacked once, and that came against Georgia. So the offensive line is keeping him upright, and they're in good hands when he is throwing the ball and not being sacked or forced to scramble. So I'm going to take Tennessee as well. We'll move to the Big Ten. Curt Cignetti, all he does is win, but he goes into a tough environment in Kinnick Stadium. Indiana is ranked 11th now, 4-0. Iowa is 3-1. The Hoosiers were the biggest riser in this week's AP poll after that strong win over Illinois. But the Hawkeyes have had success against Indiana. They have won 4 straight and have won 8 of the last 9 meetings with IU. It's the first potential ranked win for Iowa since they did it over Penn State in 2021. And we will see what happens. Justin, who do you like?
Yeah, Mark Gronowski's probably coming off of his best game at Iowa, and that's saying something since he went 12 for 18 with 186 yards. So really not much going. I don't know if you watched that Indiana-Illinois game because NBC made it a little tough to find at the beginning. But what I can tell you is Indiana's offense is great. Indiana's defense is great. Biggest win over a top 10 school in Big Ten history, a 53-point win. I don't think there's much more to say. Fernando Mendoza is following that Curtis Rourke trend or track from last year, and I think Mendoza's done even better. All he does is win, and I hate to say it, but Kirk Cignetti and Indiana get an easy win against Iowa on the road.
Iowa's always scary. Kinnick's always a tough place to play. And I think at some point this season, Iowa will prove that. They're always due for one of those upset wins. I mean, our alma mater has to go into there at some point, and that'll be a scary one nonetheless. And Kirk Ferentz is always good for playing you tough. It's going to be a tighter game than the boat race that Indiana put on at home last weekend in Bloomington. But I agree with you. As much as it's painful to say, Kurt Cignetti has raised the standard for this program to a level that it hasn't seen in a long, long time. And it's starting to become legit. And I think that Illinois win absolutely proved that. I don't have as much stock in Illinois after that performance as many. I think Luke Altmaier is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. And they're a good team, not a great team. And they might fall out of the top 25 after this week. Little foreshadowing here. And that might hurt that win. But for Indiana, going on the road into Iowa, it's another one of those performances that you keep stacking for Fernando Mendoza, who I think is much better than Curtis Rourke from a talent perspective, and he's proving that. He's a true NFL quarterback. He's going to lead this team, I think, beyond where they even went a year ago. Elijah Surratt's incredible. This team is deep as hell. I got Indiana winning, and I'm starting to really buy into this IU hype this season, and it's scaring me, folks.
Josh?
I do wonder, just kind of, I think we talk a lot about Kirk Cignetti. And I've always just loved JMU's football program, and I think it's kind of tough it's just kind of interesting to think about where they would be if he had stuck around for a little bit longer. I think they could have been, a great G5 contender. I think they would have been in a good spot. But regardless, I think it's proven the point that last year wasn't a fluke for Indiana. Yeah, they got dog walked against Notre Dame, even though I picked them to beat Notre Dame last year. I don't want to talk about that. But this is a really good Indiana team, a great offense. And this is an Iowa team that I don't think has had an offense since the Stone Age. So I think that really at this rate, it's going to be a pretty
Ferentz's offense is averaging 33 points per game.
38 against Rutgers?
It's Rutgers, okay.
That was the most – I believe that was their second most points on the road against a Big Ten team. So
yeah, and that still just proves my point. Indiana dropped 63. It's at the time a top 10 Illinois team. So I think the Hoosiers and Cignetti continue to win. I think that they're on pace to be a top 8 team in the next couple of weeks, probably.
I bet on Indiana last week. I'm going to bet on them again. I think they get a win over Iowa. I think that stadium is going to be rocking, though. I believe one of our former guest pickers, Landon Tengwall, said that was the loudest stadium he ever played in. I believe he said that. In a loud stadium last year, Kurt Cignetti said they didn't use the silent count against Notre Dame in that environment. They found something that I guess has worked since then. So we'll see what they do in that loud environment. But give me Indiana. The only way in Iowa can sneak out a win is if their special teams comes through. They have really good special teams play. So we will move on to a matchup that Josh has a lot of invested interest in, and he's hoping for a really good one here this week in the SEC. Auburn is 3-1. They are on the road against Texas A&M, who is number 9 and 3-0. Auburn right outside the top 25, unofficially the 26th ranked team in the latest AP poll. Texas A&M does lead the series all time 8-7, but in the SEC play, they trail 7-6. Obviously, Texas A&M has been reeling in a large attendance numbers this year, well over 100,000 fans. Justin, who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah.
He even told you to let me go first, but no, it's fine.
Oh, Josh, go. Well, I was to save you for last. I figured that was.
No, that's fine. No, I can go last. It's not going to be as fun as you.
I was as much as that game was a weird one, I was thoroughly impressed with Auburn keeping Oklahoma close. But Josh, what's that saying? Close only counts in
horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yeah, that's right. But they did make John Mateer the most one-dimensional he's been all season. Just 29 yards on 10 carries. Obviously passed well, 271 yards and a touchdown through the air. They abandoned their run game. Auburn's offense did. But I take this game being decided between the Auburn defense and Marcel Reed, another two-dimensional quarterback. But he struggled a little bit more in the pass game than Mateer has this season. And I don't know why, but something is telling me to go with War Eagle. So I am picking Auburn to upset A&M on the road this week.
Wow. Dylan, go ahead.
There was a different Texas A&M team that walked into South Bend. I was all but convinced that Notre Dame would get the luck of the Irish back on their side and they would roll through that one. And that would be about as impressive of a victory as they would get against a legitimate Texas A&M team, but not a team that I thought would be able to contend or pull off the win in South Bend. It felt like they were in control of that game. It felt like Marcel Reed has taken that step up and he is starting to become a legitimate top quarterback in the SEC this year, and in an SEC that has so much parity this year, and an SEC that is going to beat the hell out of each other. This does feel like a game that Auburn could actually win. But then you talk about this A&M team, and you talk about a team that does feel like Mike Elko's got his culture instilled. It does feel like he has put the game plan and the pieces around Marcel Reed to take him to the next step. It does feel like a defense that, although they got a lot hung on them by Notre Dame, I think that there's a very good chance that Auburn doesn't put up that same kind of number. Jackson Arnold's offensive line has looked abysmal. He has gotten touched on pretty much every single play. They look like turnstiles might be more effective pass blockers at this point than what the hell Auburn has been putting out there. There's no War Eagle for me this week. I think it's simply this, that A&M is a legit team. I don't know if I would have them at number 9 in the country, but I think a home victory where they just throttle the hell out of Auburn would be a nice performance. I don't know if it'll be exactly that, but I think they do control this game from start to finish. Give me A&M to topple Auburn with relative ease because Auburn's still going to Auburn and Hugh Freeze is still Hugh Freeze.
I'm out of, I've been out of water for 5 minutes. Stop saying it.
We're going to have to take a bathroom break in this episode.
Yeah, my bladder's not
Whoa. I get to make my pick before you, Josh.
It's not going to be as exciting, but fine. Go ahead.
We all know you're going A&M.
No, I was going to maybe think about the upset pick, but Jackson Arnold had such a rough outing, and I don't know if he can bounce back from that. I think, Auburn fans can have a lot of faith. They can have a lot of hope. But I think Texas A&M is going to walk
stealing my joke
into
is
that
crazy
game.
Before I go last. That's wild.
I think Texas A&M is going to walk into that game and come out with a victory.
I mean, that really made me mad. Sorry. Whatever. Look, I think if this game was in Auburn, that maybe it would have been a little bit better. I think that Jordan Hare is a really tough environment to play in. And I think we saw that last year. Texas A&M lost in overtime. It was a great design play on the 2-point conversion, but they lost because their receiver dropped the ball. But I think Marcel Reed in that offense, I think they're ready to come back with a vengeance. I have a lot of faith and a lot of hope in this Texas A&M team. And I think all these Auburn fans would be pretty mad at the end of this game because I think it's tough for them too. I mean, you go from on the road to Oklahoma, you still aren't back home. You have to go to a tough environment in College Station. I think they're going to lose too. So I've also got the Aggies in this one.
You made that pick with a lot of grace, and I'm proud of you.
Listen, thank you. Texas A&M, they're taking off like a rocket and heading to the moon. The stock has never been higher. We'll move on to the next game on our radar.
Can we take a pee break? There has been a lot of water consumed. I am struggling over here.
Wait.
No.
There it is. Found a way to get in.
We got to get through these.
We can pause. It's not out of the question. Really
just pee in one of the 15 water bottles you've drank.
Yeah, right.
No.
Our next matchup, while Dylan moans in agony, is 22 ranked Notre Dame, who is 1-2
first
against Arkansas, who is 2-2. Do you want the stats and stuff that I have, or you just want to make your pick?
I'm going to make my pick and go take a bathroom break and go on mute. I might have some newfound vested interest in this game, but my previous vested interest still rides ahead. You all know that I'm a Notre Dame fan. Not before I'm a Penn State fan, but I got invested interest in that. I'm always going to root for the Fighting Irish. Arkansas did not look great against Memphis. It felt like Taylor Green wanted to lose that game. This is a team that I think is pretty much just waiting for Sam Pittman to get ousted. Rhett Lashley, come on down. You're probably heading back to Arkansas at some point to be the next head coach. Notre Dame by a million. I think they win in Fayetteville. I do feel pretty confident about the Irish. I'm going to go take a pee break. You guys can say whatever the hell you want.
Have fun.
All right. Well, with that, I'll give some details on this game. It's the first meeting between these two sides in history. They were supposed to meet in 2020 for a home-and-home series, but that was canceled due to COVID. Arkansas is off a tough loss to Memphis. Notre Dame beat Purdue. I would say bad is the correct word for it. CJ Carr threw for over 500 yards in that game, 3 touchdowns, did throw 2 interceptions. Whichever one of you wants to go next. We'll go to Josh this one.
Phew.
Look, I think that the Memphis game is kind of a wake-up call for Taylor Green and this Arkansas team. Yeah, I think they might be a little bit dead in the water in terms of the SEC, but I think for me, it's more so that I have less faith in a Notre Dame team that, again, to me, still has not proven anything. They have a losing record. I understand that there was a lot of talent coming in, but preseason bias aside, I still don't think they've looked that great. I don't think Arkansas has looked great either, but I think being at home kind of helps. That is a team that I think for Taylor Green, losing in last-second dramatic fashion like they did. I mean, you can't fumble the ball when you have essentially first and goal with 35 seconds left. That just can't happen. I think, you're one play away from winning that game, but I do kind of think that losing that game puts them in a wake-up scenario to kind of come back with a vengeance, clean up those sloppy mistakes, and pull off the upset here. I don't trust Notre Dame yet. I don't necessarily trust Arkansas, but I think they kind of had a slap in the face last week, and they needed that, and that's going to give them the motivation to pull off this upset this week.
Dylan went to the bathroom and came back, and Josh was still talking. So we'll go to Justin next.
I could use the same
I didn't
logic.
start talking, he was halfway down.
I could use the same logic that Josh just used to, emphasize why Notre Dame's going to win, because they got a slap in the face 2 weeks ago, and now they need to win because their season rests on them winning out. And if they don't win out, they don't make the playoffs. I make notes for every single game and then decide. There is one game on here that I did not put any notes outside of my pick. It's Notre Dame, Arkansas. This game will be rather one-sided, and that will be in the side of the Fighting Irish. The Fighting Irish are, in fact, a top 25 team in the country, and I'd go one step further to say after this week, I don't need to say it. This is a team that will finish this season within the top 15 of this country and will likely be in the playoffs as well. They're a good team. They just got to figure out their defense a little bit, and I think they'll do that this week against Arkansas. So give me the Fighting Irish.
Well, I think Taylor Green is a really, really good player on a really, really bad team. I don't think Arkansas is good. I think Taylor Green is a fantastic dual threat quarterback. I mean, he has some potential NFL talent in him if he can start to really continue this trend of having good games. I like Notre Dame, however. I think Notre Dame gets another win. I like what you said, Justin. I do think they do get inside that top 15. I think they somehow find their way into the college football playoff. I agree wholeheartedly. So give me Notre Dame. And we'll move on to the next matchup, another Big 12 matchup. Number 24 ranked TCU, who's 3-0. They're into the AP poll. And Arizona State, the home team at 3-1. Arizona State sitting as the 30th ranked team unofficially in this latest poll. TCU ranked for the first time since the 2023 preseason poll. This is the blackout game for Arizona State. There's a drone show at halftime. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a drone show.
They're awesome.
850 drones. They're pretty cool. I'm sure they'll post a video on social media. I know I'll be looking for it. Going to be a good environment. TCU beat SMU last week. Arizona State used a walk-off field goal to beat Baylor. Justin, we'll start with you in this one.
Feels like everyone's been bringing out the stops for this TCU team. First, North Carolina goes, we got to go get the best NFL coach of all time to stop this TCU team. They couldn't. SMU, a playoff team last year, they couldn't stop TCU last week. Sonny Dykes is, I would say, on his way, if he wants it, to a Big Ten or SEC job sooner rather than later with what he's done with the Horned Frogs. Josh Hoover has been great at quarterback for them. 22 of 40 this past week against SMU, 379 yards, and how about 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. Sam Leavitt for Arizona State looked a lot more like Sam Leavitt of last year against Baylor this past week. He was able to run the ball effectively as well, but they still lack an it factor. They still lack a Cam Scattaboo in their offense. And this blackout effect or whatever it is, I don't think it means much for Sonny Dykes and his squad. So give me TCU on the road.
Dylan?
I really do agree with Justin there, and I hate to say it. I think we put a lot of stock in what you've done for me lately when sometimes we forget so quickly where TCU was at not too long ago on the doorstep of a national championship. Sonny Dykes is a hell of a coach. I agree with Justin. He could be a coach at a Big Ten or an SEC school. I just don't think he really needs to be or wants to be. This is a TCU team that he did a hell of a turnaround with. They're back in the top 25. Josh Hoover's a hell of a quarterback, and they were able to survive Lawrence Taylor, every celebrity, Michael Jordan out there in attendance at UNC, and they took down Chapel Bill, and I think they ran him out of the stadium so quick his girlfriend was at her daycare before the time Bill got out of there. So I do quite literally think this is a TCU team that is immune to the pressure, and you could pull out every drone show, everything, every pomp, every circumstance you want to pull, and I still think TCU is going to come out on top in Tempe. I'm not that convinced, but I do think Sonny Dykes is one of those guys that can help this squad rise above the rest. So I am going to go with the Horned Frogs, and I do think they come out on top. Sorry, Jordan Hudson and Bill, for that stray that you guys didn't deserve.
Josh?
This is going to be a week where either I have a fantastic week or I move the dead last. I don't know if I trust this TCU team yet. I understand the rank. I really love Sonny Dykes, and I love Josh Hoover, but at the end of the day, I don't see a resume that's deserving to be in the top 25. UNC is not a good football team. It's been proven week and week again. SMU, they were a playoff team last year, but they've struggled mightily as well early on in this season, a 2-2 record. I'm not saying Arizona State's resume is that much better, but I think there are certain people that kind of see that ranking next to TCU and they think, oh, this is a team that's going to steamroll Arizona State. They just went on the road and beat a good Baylor team that beat SMU as well and kept it and were pretty consistent or pretty decent against an Auburn team that, at least in our poll, is still ranked and should be ranked, I think, in the AP top 25. I think this is an Arizona State team at home. I don't know if really the blackout's going to matter that much, but I like their offensive, their air raid attack more than I like the air raid attack at TCU. I think Sam Leavitt, I think he needed that game last week to kind of get back into rhythm, and I think we'll continue that this week at home. I just don't know if I don't think TCU is as good as advertised because I think a lot of people are overestimating that win over just a bad UNC team.
I like
what about
that
the SMU game?
I don't think SMU is that good either. I really don't.
Either way, great. I have a feeling. I just this was a gut feeling for me. I mean, I like Josh Hoover, I think, a little bit more right now than I like Sam Leavitt, but I picked Arizona State to be matched up with Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. So I think I'll stick with it and ride with Arizona State this week. And hopefully Arizona State can get a big ranked win under their belt, be 4-1, and be sitting near the top of the Big 12 as they try to make their way back into that conversation. So we will move on to an interesting matchup. Two teams heading in opposite directions. USC continuing to rise. They went up another 4 spots in the AP poll. Illinois, the biggest drop after a tough loss. I mean, that was brutal. They dropped 14 spots. Jaden Maeva is the number 1 quarterback in the nation in QBR this year. Mekhi Lemon seems to be one of the top receivers in the Big Ten. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Two teams in opposite directions for sure. Justin, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I hate this game personally because I could see it going one of two ways, but I'm going to do it the way that I actually really can see it going. I think people, and by people I mean me last week when I did that whole thing, I think they overrated Illinois because Illinois had beaten Western Illinois. They had beaten Duke, who has turned out to be not as good as a lot of people had imagined for them, and they beat Western Michigan prior to that Indiana game. And I think we put a lot of stock into those results without, maybe looking into the game more. I could say pretty well that I didn't really tune into any Illinois games prior to last week. This USC team, Lincoln Riley is back the way he wants his team to be run. This is an offensive first team. They actually are great defensively too. They lead the nation, tied for the lead with 16 sacks. But you look at this offense, 5th in the country in points per game, 3rd in the country in yards per game. Jaden Mayava, 6th in the country with over 1,200 passing yards. Wayman Jordan, 7th in the country with 443 rush yards. You mentioned Mekhi Lemon. You got all that talent on that USC team. Their offense can handle anything and can hang with anyone. So even if Luke Altmaier gets going this week for Illinois, it's not going to matter. USC has too many pieces for Illinois to handle, especially after last week. So give me the USC Trojans to move to a whopping 5-0.
Dylan?
I don't think I need to elaborate much. I've been all in on the USC hype train. I think Illinois is a good team. They will find themselves kind of like they did last year, sneak themselves back into the top 25 at some point, but it's not going to be right now, and I think they'll find themselves pushed out at the expense of a USC team that firmly goes into the top 20, and if things go really south and maybe a little haywire this weekend, they could sneak into the top 15. They're starting to stack victories. They're starting to stay consistent. They're beating the teams they should beat, and this is a different USC team than a year ago with a better quarterback, a better offense, and a more developed defense than a year ago. DeAnton Lynn, come on down. You might be getting a head coaching job at some point with the way current trends are looking. USC wins. They take care of business in Champaign, and like Justin said, they go to a whopping 5-0, and all of a sudden it's a USC team that they could really make some noise in the college football playoff picture this year.
Josh?
Yeah, I think this is just two teams, like you mentioned at the beginning of this little segment, Thomas, going in polar opposite directions. USC continues to rise. Illinois is continuing to fall. I have USC in this one. I just think that the offense has looked like a USC offense that we're used to seeing. And I mean, it comes down to the fact that neither one of these quarterbacks has thrown an interception yet this season. I think Altmaier throws one late in this game. I think that seals it for USC. And I think that really is what kind of turns this tide. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for USC, in Champaign, but I just think there's too much firepower. They have all the momentum, and Illinois is just kind of down and out after getting absolutely manhandled last week.
I think it's interesting because Luke Altmaier this year has not thrown an interception despite being tied for second in the nation in times sacked. He's been sacked 16 times this year. The offensive line has just not been good for him. He's thrown 855 yards, 9 touchdowns, and like I said, no interceptions. So I think Luke Altmaier deserves better for sure from this Illinois team, but USC just looks like a powerhouse in the Big Ten this year. I think they may, I think there's a clear-cut top 3. I think USC might be right there at 4. So give me USC in this one, and we will move on to our top 3 matchups of the week. Our first one is in the SEC. It is a number 4 ranked LSU, who is 4-0, heading on the road to Ole Miss, who is 13th ranked and 4-0. These two teams went to overtime last year before LSU won by 3. The teams have alternated wins the last 4 years, but I will say the home team has won the last 5 matchups. But there is some drama this year. I'm not sure if you guys saw. Lane Kiffin's daughter, Landry, has hard-launched a relationship with LSU linebacker Whit Weeks right before this big matchup. So I don't know if Lane Kiffin's got some extra fire from that or what, but that's an interesting note and a big-time play from Whit Weeks there for sure. LSU is their best program record since that 2019 season. We all know what that resulted in. And that's kind of all the info I have for you. But there's a little bit of drama, a little bit of extra fuel in this game. Justin, who do you like?
I hate this matchup. I think whichever way I pick, I'm going to be wrong. That being said, I'm going to take a shot in the dark here, honestly. LSU, as much as I love their what's up?
Flip a coin.
Yeah, flip a coin. I don't have one down here, but as much as I think they've got a strong resume, they've also left a lot out there to be a lot better than they've been this year. Garrett Nussmeier, I think they finally found some things, but again, it was against Southeast Louisiana this past weekend. Now, Ole Miss has played a lot of close games already. They also blew out Tulane, who was highly thought of by, I think, all 4 of us. They kept it close Kentucky kept it close against them. Arkansas kept it close against them. But one thing that has led them to victory time and time again is this, or I guess in all 4 games this year, is that their offense seems too high-powered for the defenses they've gone up against. And I think LSU's defense has at times this season, we saw it in that Florida game with the targeting ejection and all that, they have lost composure in big moments. And to me, I don't know who's starting for Ole Miss. Nobody knows. I think it should be Trinidad Chambliss. I think they might go back to Austin Simmons. But at the end of the day, their offense can produce with whoever's in there. And I think that's what's impressive about this Lane Kiffin-led team. I am going to pull with Ole Miss here. That being said, you should all probably pick LSU then.
The one thing I want to say, in media this week, Lane Kiffin was asked about the quarterback decision. He did say that Austin Simmons is the starter if he's healthy. 100% healthy was his exact wording. If he stays true to that, that's
they've looked better without him, in my opinion.
Right. That remains to be seen. But allegedly, if Austin Simmons is 100% healthy, that's their quarterback. So take that as you will. Dylan, will go to you.
I think them not starting Austin Simmons would kind of be a little bit weird after their offenses hummed on with Trinidad, and it seemed like he's added a different layer to that offense with how dynamic he is truly with his legs. I think he's a little bit more experienced than Simmons, and for a kid that I raved about but also hated on a couple weeks ago and said he's good at everything, I think he needs some time and a little bit more seasoning, and I think he kind of has gotten that taste. But Chambliss is ready, and I think he would be the guy that they can go to win this game. This game is really not that hard for me. The Magnolia Bowl, listen, Landry could be as sweet as a Magnolia, but whatever the hell she's doing with Whit Weeks does not feel like it's going to work out well for Lane this week. But he doesn't care. He's alley-ooping, he's dunking, he's doing whatever the hell he wants because he's Lane freaking Kiffin, and he's playing Lane freaking Kiffin football. And if you're going to tell me 10 out of 10 times that I'm going to have the chance to ride with that guy over Brian Kelly, who's not even man enough to ask a legitimate or answer a legitimate question from a reporter who simply put just asked questions about an offense that's looked borderline lifeless with a guy who should have been a Heisman hopeful. Instead, Garrett Nussmeier, it doesn't matter who your dad is and the fact that he was an offensive guru. It doesn't matter anything because right now he can't get out of his own way. Brian Kelly finds ways week after week to find himself to be more and more unlikable. He finds ways more and more each week, despite winning football games, to come off more and more like this team is just a team that's held together by glue, freaking rubber bands and shoestring at this point. This is a team that does not know what identity they have. This is a team that has no clue what the hell they are. You could play this game in Baton Rouge, on the moon, wherever the hell you want to play. Give me Ole Miss 10 out of 10 times. I don't care if it's Trinidad Chambliss, Austin Simmons, Josh Bartosik, whoever the hell you want to put at quarterback. I'm going to ride with Lane Kiffin every day of the week and twice on Sundays over Brian Kelly. Get that sham out of my hair. That's it. I'm done.
You should have said twice on Saturdays, or that would have been electric.
Yeah. Just missed.
What?
I think if I was in at quarterback, then LSU would have a much better chance of winning this game. But
we've seen you play sports. It's not.
Yeah,
you've never seen me play quarterback. All right.
I've seen you shoot a basketball.
Close enough. Josh, go pick up a ball and
completely different sports. I'm not gonna go fetch a ball. I'm not your dog, you freak.
Can we get going? I still have to do the news.
Go.
Anyways,
come on, man.
Don't look.
Sorry,
Anyway, look. I said this when LSU played Clemson, that Brian Kelly always finds a way to lose the big game. I thought at that moment that he had proven me wrong. It actually turns out that Clemson wasn't the big game. That team is complete ass. So actually, this is the big game, and he's going to lose it. It's on the road. Like Dylan said, he can't answer a legitimate question about the fact that his offense has only scored more than 24 points against Southeast Louisiana, or whoever it was they played last week, the school of the deaf and blind. Other than that, they've looked terrible on offense, and Ole Miss at home with a Lane Kiffin-led squad is going to steamroll them. I got to take the Rebels.
Well, I mean, guys, I was totally wanting to go with my superstition and say, well, the home teams won the last 5. LSU won last year. They've alternated the last 4 years. It seems like it's Ole Miss trending in that direction. But you guys all picked Ole Miss. I'm so tempted to go LSU here. But unfortunately, I just can't. I mean, LSU. That could
hurt us bad. That really.
Yeah, that could really hurt us. LSU's defense has looked really good, but this Ole Miss offense, I mean, we keep talking about it. Who knows? They may run both of these quarterbacks at some point in these games. I mean, I like both of them for sure. And
yeah, then one will transfer to a different school, do better, and all the fans will be freaking out that quarterback's doing
We
better.
want Sean. Oh, wait, wrong quarterback.
It's a weird situation that they have there, huh? But for sure, I think Ole Miss, my superstition pick was going to be Ole Miss just because of that. But I do think that they will get a big win over LSU, and that will really shake up our rankings, I think. So we'll move on to our next SEC matchup. which is an interesting one for sure. There's some more superstition lines in this game. Number 17, Alabama, who's 2-1 with a loss to Florida State. At number 5, Georgia, who's 3-0. Both teams were on a bye week last week, so should be fresh. Jam Miller, who is a big Chevy is a big fan of, he is expected to be returning in this game, I believe. He had 668 yards last year, 7 touchdowns as well. 75th overall meeting between these two. Alabama leads the Athlon series 15-10. Bama has won 9 of the last 10 meetings between these two sides. Georgia last won in 2003 in Athens, but they have 33 straight home wins. Kirby Smart is 1-6 versus Bama. Last year was a thriller, and I think we're in store for another thriller this year. Bama was up 28-0. They led 30-7 at half. Georgia then scored 3 straight touchdowns to lead by 1, and the infamous Ryan Williams 75-yard touchdown grab ended up being the game winner. So a big-time SEC matchup. Justin, do you want to start? You look like you're still contemplating.
No. I'll start this one.
Okay.
I'm not starting the last one, though, tonight. In fact, I'm going last for that one. Here's the deal with this game. It's another one that I don't like. I don't like any of these games. I don't like any of my picks. But here's the deal. There's a reason College Game Day is not going to this game. And that is because Kalen DeBoer is on the phone with Nick Saban 24/7 this week. And I know that Kalen DeBoer was able to beat Georgia last year, but the fact is it's different this year because Alabama's already got that loss. I think there's going to be a lot of, I don't want to say Nick Saban influence on this game, but I think there's going to be a lot of Nick Saban influence on this game, going to Georgia instead of playing it at home like this game was played last year. You need Ryan Williams to show up. He, since this Georgia game last year, hasn't gone over 100 yards. His, I believe, max was 73, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. But you really need to see something different here from that Alabama offense. I think Jam Miller coming back completely changes the dynamic that this offense brings to the table. I like what I saw from Georgia against Tennessee. It was much, much, much improved from the games against Marshall and Austin Peay, where they started out a bit slow. In the Austin Peay game, they stay slow the whole time. But it's clear Georgia's defense has some issues, letting up 41 points to Tennessee, and realistically should have lost that game, but obviously it didn't go the way of the Tennessee kicker that day. This Alabama offense is going to take the step forward it needs. I am picking Alabama in this game. Part of it is because I picked Alabama to be in my SEC championship game, and I still have a parlay riding on that, but a lot of it is because I believe Alabama is going to display something different this week with Miller coming back and with their whole offense, especially after the disappointing result earlier this year against Florida State, who I think a lot of people are now realizing is a lot better of a team than a lot of people thought they were week 1 when they beat Bama. So give me Alabama to go on the road and beat Georgia this week.
Dylan?
And I think 2 things can be true at the same time. Florida State can be a better team than people expected, so we can give more credit to Alabama for the fact that they lost that game. But 2 things can be true at the same time when you say that Georgia's a hell of a football team and they're going to make this a absolute bloodbath in Athens. It's going to be a war. It's not going to be one that either side's going to come out in a real easy win. I mean, it is going to take guys putting their all out onto the field out there in Athens. Georgia's trying to preserve that hell of a win streak. Alabama's trying to keep their good times rolling against UGA. They flashed something in that game against Tennessee. I mean, I picked against them. I was pretty confident that the week 3 would be all about what happened in Knoxville, and everybody was going to be singing Rocky Top, you'll always be. You get the gist at this point. But my point was that I thought this Georgia team was flawed. I thought this Georgia team, they lost their quarterback to it's all about the you, baby, and he has been rocking and rolling out there and making his new life without the Cavender twin look like it might be better without it than it ever was before. And Mario Cristobal, he might have taught him a thing or two about winning a big game, but that's another episode for another day. But the thing with Georgia is that Kirby Smart, for all that bad I just said about Brian Kelly, Kirby Smart's one of those guys that you're always going to trust in a game like this. And DeBoer had to replace DeGoat, and DeBoer DeBoer might be the guy at some point, but Ty Simpson, I think, is still a step up from Jalen Milroe. They still lost the game to Florida State that I think we all should give them a lot more credit for losing. But at the same time, Georgia is still Georgia. Athens is still Athens. It's a hell of a tough place to be. And I have gone back and forth on this one throughout the course of this episode. And originally I was going to make this pick calculated based on, how the rest of the picks were tracking. But at this point, it's simply just, who's that coming down the track? Kirby Smart in the red and black. I trust him more than DeBoer. Nick Saban could hold his hand on the sideline, and it's not going to change shit to me. Kirby wins the game. Athens becomes the place that now has won 34 straight games, and Georgia beats Bama and ends the losing streak.
Josh?
Can you do your best dog bark?
Not enough passion behind it.
Now, if we ask Josh to do it, it'll be a little Chihuahua bark.
Go ahead, puppy.
Big dog.
Look, I think that it comes down to that Georgia team could have really been dead of the water when they played Tennessee. They were down by multiple scores early in a very hostile environment. Neyland Stadium, probably top 5 toughest places to play in, especially when the Vols get out to a multi-score lead. They clawed their way back. Gunnar Stockton may not have been his best day. He's only thrown 4 touchdowns on the season, but he's gotten the job done. I think him being able to run the ball as well, his versatility, saw a sneak peek of it last year in the playoff. We're really seeing it in its full effect this year. I think that this is just it's a Georgia team that in the past I've kind of had my doubts about the last few years about, they're good enough, but they're good, but are they great? I think this is a great Georgia team. I think this is an okay Alabama team. Yeah, you can give them a little bit more credit for losing to Florida State, but they got manhandled by Florida State, and I don't really know if beating Wisconsin, who's probably kicking Luke Fickell out the door the next time they get any sort of loss, if getting embarrassed by Maryland, is that big of an accomplishment. So I really think that this just has all the signs of a good old-fashioned Bulldog ass whooping, and I will take the Bulldogs in this one.
Georgia is sitting at number 5 in the country. They're 3-0. They were a field goal away from losing that game and being dropped heavily in the rankings. You look at this. Gunnar Stockton had a really good game against Tennessee. 304 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 38 rushing yards, and a touchdown as well. But overall this season, he's not had much other than that one game. I think you look at Alabama, Ty Simpson, 862 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's starting to get into that groove. I know, Dylan, you said he needs to take the next step. Well, I think this may be the game. I don't know. But you look at Georgia, it's so hard to bet against them every single year, and especially Kirby Smart. I think, Justin, you said it earlier, Kirby Smart is, I believe you said, top 2 coaches all in college football right now or something like that. Kirby Smart is just a really good coach. So when you look at this game, Dylan, you said it. Who's that coming down the track? Nothing but the damn Tide. Give me Alabama.
Wow.
I like Alabama in this matchup. I think the record shows for itself. They've won 9 of the last 10. I think that trend continues. Georgia does not play well at home against Alabama. That's the end of it. So give me Alabama. And we're split. And I know we said we were going to make a bet on one of the games last week, and we never did. This could be the game.
We did it.
I'm really glad we didn't, actually.
But maybe we make a bet on this one or the next game, which we will dive into because we are running out of time on this episode. We're 22
minutes overtime, but
biggest matchup of the week. This is a Big Ten thriller right in prime time. It's the whiteout, number 6 Oregon, who is 4-0 on the road in Happy Valley against the number 3 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions, who is 3-0. College game day is in town. It's a Big Ten championship rematch. Here's some facts for you guys. The 18th whiteout all time began in 2004 as a full student section whiteout. In 2007, it became a full stadium whiteout. Penn State is 11-6 in whiteout games. This is the 6th meeting between Oregon and Penn State, 3rd time in the regular season. The Ducks visit Happy Valley for the first time since 1964. Penn State does lead the series 3-2 all time. This is a big matchup. We have a lot of stakes in this. Justin and Dylan, you guys will be in Happy Valley for this matchup, potentially inside Beaver Stadium as well. Dylan, Josh, what do you want to start? I can start if you want. Doesn't matter. Justin said he wanted to go last.
I can start. I feel ready.
Okay.
I have my
Go
weapons
ahead.
ready. I have the resources at my disposal. Let me tell you a little bit more about the Ducks. Oh, of course, they have the gorgeous stadium, Autzen Stadium. Want to get out there at some point. They say Eugene's a beautiful place.
Another Big Ten trip.
Bob Knight's got all the money in the world. I quite literally think he might have more money than God himself. They've got every uniform at their disposal. They quite literally, I think they could come up with a uniform tomorrow, and it would be the most beautiful thing that we've ever seen on God's green earth. As I said, Autzen Stadium is literally heaven on earth, probably. Nike is the best company in all ways, shapes, or forms. Dante Moore is a hell of a quarterback, and he proves that sometimes patience, it was my big rant on the Catskill Sports Report with Dylan Price this past weekend, that sometimes patience with quarterbacks, well, it might actually pay off. And of course, you guys all know my affliction or my affection on that guy right there. Listen, I have loved this Puddles character for some time, and I get it, whatever. You don't want to call him Puddles anymore. His name's the Oregon Duck mascot. Whatever the hell you want to call him. This guy is a character. He's an entertainer. He puts Hugh Jackman to shame. You call him the greatest showman? Nah. Puddles is the greatest showman. He can captivate a crowd. He could take Bob Knight out of the picture, the uniforms out of the picture, Autzen Stadium, Nike, Dante Moore out of the picture, and let alone right then and there, Puddles would be my guy. And every day of the week and twice on, I guess, Saturdays, since you guys were mad about that, I'm going to want to take Puddles because he is my guy and I got a soft spot for him. But there's something about Happy Valley. WhiteOut, and it don't matter what day of the week it is. And I know my camera's inverted, but it doesn't matter. It comes down to simply that. Kevin Jennings is a great quarterback. He might be a great kid, but he couldn't hear a lick in Happy Valley when that place is a rocking. It doesn't matter who it is unless you're Ohio State. Don't come a knocking. Puddles, I hope you have a great trip. Puddles, I hope to see you in Happy Valley. Puddles, you're my guy, and you will always have a place in this heart of mine. But when it comes to the WhiteOut, 11-6, it don't matter to me. It goes to 12-6 on Saturday under the lights, and that's how Dante Moore and maybe Puddles is going to be looking after their ears are ringing all the way on that bus back to Altoona. Give me Penn State.
Wow.
Josh?
Wow. I would have really loved that if you had gotten the name of Phil Knight correct instead of calling it the deceased Indiana basketball
wait,
coach.
that's a guy you and I know very well.
Yes. So
I really focused on my Puddles and WhiteOut, but
It was executed well.
It was great. It was great. I love the passion. I mean, look, if you're looking at this game on paper from the way that it's looked like, you would expect Oregon to run away with this one. They've looked fantastic in all of their games. Penn State's looked mediocre. But again, it's the WhiteOut. I think Drew Aller, this is his game. It has to be his game. He's been close, but not close enough in some of these big games. Has to be this weekend for Drew Aller. And I think especially for Penn State, the way to get him going is to establish the run game. Love Nick Singleton. Love Katron Allen. Very obviously, Katron Allen's the number one running back. He needs to get at least 20, 25 touches on Saturday against Oregon for Penn State to win. That is Oregon's main weakness, is their interior defensive line. Their run defense has been a little bit brutal, was better this past weekend. However, you got to get the run game going. Otherwise, if you become one-dimensional, you're going to lose this football game. It's simple as that. Penn State got one-dimensional at times last year, and really it was just you're throwing the ball to Nick Singleton or Tyler Warren, and that's it. You have the weapons. You have to find a way to get those weapons open by running the ball. And this Penn State defense is top 3 in the country right now. I mean, yeah, you can talk about the schedule. You can only play if you're playing. But they're averaging 5 points against per game. That is an unreal number. You get Jim Knowles. Clearly it's working. I think it's going to work again this weekend. He did the exact same thing against Oregon in the Rose Bowl last season for Ohio State. I think this is a Penn State defense that is around the same in terms of their capabilities on defense, especially with the weapons they got in the transfer portal. I think it's going to be a close one. I do have Penn State winning this one again. Shades of 1995 when Penn State beat Oregon in that Rose Bowl. A throwback for everybody here, even though none of us were alive for that. But I'm also riding with the Nittany Lions. I think they're due. Been saying it for years, but they're due.
Josh, if you want a sign that you picked wrong, you are the anonymous duck on our Google Doc right now, or our Google Sheet right now. So you may have picked wrong here.
Wow.
I'm anonymous.
Well,
that's tough.
I will say a few things. First of all, Dylan, I know you said they got the most drip. They're wearing mummy duck is what they call them, glow-in-the-dark cleats.
Those are so sick.
Which are going to be pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. I will admit Oregon has the best jerseys, I think, in any sport and any level. So I will give them that. Oregon has looked good. I don't know about Katron Allen getting 20 to 25 touches. I didn't know Derrick Henry played for Penn State. I hear you out, Josh. I do agree that Katron needs more touches than Singleton.
Do you not want to run the ball?
I don't want
run the damn ball.
I mean, 25 touches is
Do you
a
want
lot.
him in Mount Nittany at the end of it? Or do you want him able to play
if it wins him the game, yeah.
I've been to Mount
Give him the damn ball.
It's not fun. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you're missing an appendix.
You would know.
Yeah. Oregon, this is a game where if their offense continues to be what it is, Jim Knowles is going to be, his defense is really going to be tested. It's the first real test. I agree, Josh. The numbers look great. But I'm going to go with Justin here. I think the defense and the opponents have not been really testing this defense to the point where the stats kind of lie a little bit. So I think Dante Moore, former 5-star, like you said, Dylan, a little bit of patience with him. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, only been sacked once. DeCorian Moore, I know his stats don't look anything super crazy, but he's going to be a stud in this league at some point. But when you hear Mo Bamba play for the 99th time, when you hear Zombie Nation come on, when you see the crowd with the white shakers all in unison, when you hear the fireworks go off and that first play, I hope Penn State is on defense. I pray Penn State is on defense. Dante Moore rolls out. He's going like this, like you just saw Kevin Jennings. He can't hear jack shit. And Penn State comes out on top in a big, big win in Happy Valley. The whiteout is unmatched, the greatest spectacle in all of sports. Give me Penn State over Oregon, the Big Ten championship get back in Happy Valley.
So I had a dream a couple of weeks ago. I think it was last week, a week and a half ago. I texted you guys
a couple of weeks ago.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah,
I
texted you. I texted you guys when I woke up. I said I had a dream. Penn State wins the whiteout 30-27. That is what the scoreboard showed in my dream. I'd love for that to be the result. I am rooting for Penn State against all journalistic integrity. I am rooting for Penn State in this game. Dylan and I will be loud. We'll be there. We'll be cheering them on. But I'm not dumb, and I'm not drinking the damn Kool-Aid yet. They have looked bad against bad opponents, and I know they looked better in the last game against Villanova. Give them credit. But this, to me, is a moment that Dan Lanning, who's already cemented himself in the Big Ten, goes in and tackles an environment that only really Ohio State has been able to tackle, and on Michigan a couple of times. Dan Lanning is, in my opinion, with Kirby Smart, one of the top 2 coaches in college football. He's got a team ready to compete week in and week out. They don't need any extra motivation. And everyone's saying the noise is going to be a factor. Yeah, it probably will. But the silent count exists for a reason. And if there's a program that's going to be able to figure it all out, it's going to be a program that's led by one of the best culture builders in all of college football, one of the best program builders in college football in Dan Lanning. Dante Moore, DeCorian Moore, Kenyon Sadiq. You just keep naming guys that can go off against this Penn State defense. I believe in this Penn State defense. I think they'll keep it close. My worry is on the Penn State offensive side of things. I think Josh, in a sense, is right. I think more 15 to 20 carries for Katron Allen because Oregon has struggled against the run this year. It hasn't been exploited because they've played some bad teams. This is Penn State's opportunity to put everything behind them, to put all those losses to Ohio State behind them. They had Drew Aller come back, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, Denai Dennis Sutton, all these guys come back for this exact reason, to go in there and make a statement. I don't think they win this game still. I think their statement comes on the road in Columbus in a couple of weeks against Ohio State. I said earlier in the year they were going to lose one of these games. It sucks that it's going to be the one I'm at, but I have Oregon in this game. Not by much, but I do have Puddles and the Ducks going all the way back to Altoona, happy, and then all the way back to the West Coast. Unfortunately, if I've learned anything in the fact that I graduated in May and still unemployed here in September, dreams don't come true. So my dream from the last week is not going to come true. Give me the Ducks here to get the best of Penn State in what I'm going to say is going to be an instant classic, one of the top 5 games in college football this year.
I think if there's anything we can agree on, this one is going to be a thriller. Everybody in the country, Penn State fan, Oregon fan, or not, is going to be watching this game. Huge college football playoff implications. Could potentially mean one of these teams doesn't get in, could potentially mean these teams are good enough to both get in despite the result. We will see. And that is how we end our picks. And we will quickly, because I know we are well over our time, get into our locks and long shots. Who would like to start with their lock of the week?
Yeah, I've done well here.
Okay.
Decently well. NC State, I hate it because Josh is an NC State fan. They are favored by 10.5 against Virginia Tech. The Hokies don't have a coach. They looked better against Wofford, but it's Wofford, an FCS opponent that isn't good, and they still barely put up points. NC State has had some fun this year. A couple wins thrown in there. They beat UVA, most notably. Give me NC State to cover 10.5 spread against Tech.
CJ Bailey just threw 3 picks against Duke. It's a terrible idea.
I've been kind of under 2 mentalities. One, that I'm the lock and long shot king, and 2, that I fade UCLA until I can't fade them anymore. I'm going to continue that, and it might burn me this week, and my run as the king of locks and long shots might come to a conclusion, but I'm going with Northwestern at home to continue to fade the UCLA train until it doesn't win me any more money.
Josh.
I talked about this team a little bit earlier that I really like them as a group of 5 team. I think North Texas over South Alabama, they're favored by 12.5 points. Don't give me that look. You gave me that look when I picked Delaware last week as my long shot, and I won.
Well, you had ties.
Well, regardless, I still needed it, all right?
Get on with it.
I am not the one taking up all our damn time, Justin Tyler Chevrolet. I will government name you. I think North Texas is a great team. I think they could potentially be a team that fights for that group of 5 spot. I think they win this week against South Alabama.
I'll be honest. I have two locks that I have written down. I'm going to pick the one I feel more confident in. Florida State -6.5 on the road against Virginia. Tommy Castellanos has really controlled this offense well. The stats don't show it, but he has done a great job. The rushing game for Florida State is underrated, 363 yards per game. I think they control the clock. I think they cover the spread easily. So we will go to our long shots now. Justin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of ever putting any stock into a Deion Sanders-led team, especially the Colorado Buffaloes, but they looked really good. Caden Salter returned to the quarterback position for the Buffaloes last week. Threw for 304 yards and 3 touchdowns, ran for 86 yards and another touchdown. They need to figure out their running game with their running backs, but Salter, he provides a different dynamic to this offense. They are an underdog by 6.5 against BYU. Haven't been, the needle hasn't moved for me on BYU this year, obviously with the late quarterback change and starting the true freshman. But I have Colorado as my long shot of the week against BYU.
Dylan?
I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in Ohio, given the fact that they were able to beat West Virginia, and rightfully so. But Bowling Green has not been that bad of a team. They're 2-2. They had a rough performance against Louisville, same against Cincinnati, but against teams that when they actually do pick on someone their own size, they were able to take down Liberty and take down Lafayette. Obviously, a new year for them. No more Harold Fannin Jr., who's tearing it up with the Cleveland Browns. No more Scott Loeffler, who's now on to coach in the NFL yet again. But they do have a couple things. They have Drew Pine, who's a pretty efficient quarterback for the most part. Needs to show a little bit more. Definitely needs to show a little bit more. Kadarius Roberts, their new tight end, Jaron Johnson. But it's not anything remotely close to what I actually give a crap about in this one. There's a little cat, and he is a little bit smushy, a little bit fat, and he's going to be the reason that they cover a fat spread in this one. Give me Pudge the Cat, baby, and Bowling Green is my long shot. I feel absolutely awful about this one, but it's the best I had.
Josh?
It's really mean to call Thomas Pudge the Cat, man.
That's
He's working
crazy.
on it. He's really working on it. I am going to go with, look, I mean, we talked about this team earlier in the and it was actually how we started this podcast, was Justin talking about the culture.
3 hours
ago?
Browns.
Yeah. 7 years ago, whatever you want to say. But the culture that Fran Brown has built at Syracuse, big win against Clemson, they're somehow not favored at home against a Duke team that has been hot and cold. But I think riding a big win against Clemson,
hot
I love.
And you're cold.
Sorry. Great song. One of the 3 songs I think you actually know. Okay. I think that this Syracuse team, I really like them going into this season, not as a sleeper team. I had Georgia Tech as my sleeper ACC team, but they're very, very good. And I think at home, back in the dome, they're just going to take the top off of this Duke team.
Syracuse was my pick, but I have a backup one. I knew I had a feeling somebody was going to take it because I do think Syracuse should actually be favored in that matchup, especially at home. I mean, their quarterback is second in the nation in yards thrown. I mean, Darian Mensah's right at third for Duke. My backup pick, though, maybe this is pretty bold, but I like it. Washington plus 8.5 against number 1 Ohio State. I know Ryan Day is 6-0 after bye weeks. Ohio State has been all right in a few games. They beat Texas. I know they're the number 1 team, but 8.5 points doesn't seem that crazy to me. Jonah Coleman has looked pretty insane at running back, leads the Big Ten, I believe, and with 9 rushing touchdowns, 200-yard games. Washington is good at home, 65-16 at home since they reopened their stadium after redoing it in 2013. Give me a shot in the dark with Washington to upset the number one team this week in college football. And that will wrap up this episode. A little bit of a longer one, but that's what happens when you have a super exciting week 5 of college football, 4 top 25 matchups, and a bunch of other really good matchups that we will be watching all day Saturday. Justin, Dylan, enjoy the whiteout game. Josh and I will be enjoying it from the comfort of our home, hoping for Penn State victories. Justin, possibly hoping for a Penn State victory as a fan.
I am rooting for Penn State. I am picking against them.
An interesting week of picks, and this is going to set up an exciting next episode when we are back here on Locks and Long Shots.